I go live to my personal and then I share it to the page.
You share it to the page now or later?
I do it now.
Okay.
Last time I couldn't, only because I made the mistake of getting rid of the Facebook app off my phone. Lesson learned. So
you're definitely live.
Yeah, we are live. Now I'm just waiting for it to pop up so I can share it.
Happy New Year, everybody. We have a few things to do here before we get rolling. Anybody just joining us for the first time, this is our recap or book review of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That's a book written by Gary Keller quite some years ago that introduced a lot of agents and teams and even real estate brokerages to a business model that allowed them to grow and scale their real estate business. Like I said, agents and teams and brokerages have used the models that are in the MREA for decades, and obviously countless teams and brokerages have had a lot of success with it. And we wanted to bring it to you guys here on Facebook Live because we were doing a lot of coaching in the office and realized that we could get a greater reach out of these Facebook Lives and that it could live on Facebook for quite some time and people could go back and review it anytime they wanted to. So welcome to our MREA Millionaire Real Estate Agent book review. And my name is Anthony Line. I'm with Keller Williams. I'm the team leader here, and we have Brittany Giles on the line as well. Brittany, do you want to tell everybody what you do here at Keller Williams?
I am the tech ambassador for Keller Williams. And basically what that means is I help folks plug into not only our technology, which is Command, our all-in-one platform where you can truly work your entire real estate business out of. But I also help folks with the other tech that they might need, whether it's social media, printer help, and fun things like that. So I'm a go-to resource on how you can do real estate through technology to make your life simpler and hopefully allow you to focus on the things that you do best, which we talk about in MREA. And that way you're not spending too much time in the weeds, fiddling with database and marketing and things like that.
Brittany's selling herself short, so I'll tell you a little bit more. We call Brittany our tech ambassador for a reason. It's because she's a leader within our organization in leading people in the systems and processes that they need to run their business. So much more than a techie. And she also knows these business models as well as I do, after I've been using them and teaching on them for about 15 years. So it's always a pleasure to have you, Brittany. Don't sell yourself short.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yep. And I'm going to let you run the majority of today's call. It's a wrap up for everybody. So anybody who hasn't seen these before, we went through the models, the business models. That's the lead generation model, the budget model, the economic model, and the organizational model that Gary Keller developed or prescribed in order for any business, really, but primarily real estate businesses, to start with a plan, come up with a model that puts these pieces together and says, hey, if we go and do these things, then this is what we should expect using the model. So for instance, if we go and spend $2,000 in marketing, we can expect 100 leads. And out of 100 leads, we can expect 20 contacts, 2 clients, etc. That's just an example of lead generation model into the economic model. Budget model is everybody should have a P&L, hopefully. The organizational model, everybody's pretty familiar with. So we spent a lot of time, weeks actually, each Wednesday going through each one of those models. And Brittany said earlier that, hey, we've been pretty analytical in diving into those models, and I agree. So but it's important to get into those details and really understand how those models work so that you use them properly. So if you haven't caught any of that yet, go back and watch the prior lives. Today, we're going to do a wrap up and really talk about why it's important to think big, why it's important to have a positive mindset going into using these models. And then as you implement these models, why is it important to, again, think big, go back, track those models and improve those models. Because frankly, we're all going to fail when we set out on our yearly goals. So we're hoping to teach you today how to make this your best year yet, simply by having a great mindset and understanding that you need to track and report on any of your plans or any of your goals in order for you to make the adjustments on your failures throughout the way so that you can land on your goals and succeed in reaching your goals. So Brittany, what do you have in store for us today?
I love it. Mindset is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about. And it's just because I had to go through quite the mindset shift, tongue twister. And it's something that I've realized you have to constantly work on, right? So it's kind of like dieting and exercising. You can't just like wake up one day, walk on the treadmill, eat an apple and be like, cool, like I'm going to drop 20 pounds now, right? Like it's this consistent thing that you have to work at. And your mental health and your mindset is exactly the same. And you have to keep focus on that to be able to achieve big goals. And what I love is Gary Keller recognizes that as well. So he says, you know, your business is ultimately a reflection of you. And if you want to change, grow, improve your business, then you also have to work on changing, growing, and improving yourself. So you can't just plug into a system if you're not willing to grow with it and adapt with it. A lot of growth requires being adaptive. And he mentions that successful business owners, they actually spend a lot of time in personal development. And, you know, it's quite frankly, because it's hard to stay focused. It's hard to keep clear on what your goals are, right? We have so many distractions that it's easy to get pulled away. So he talks about if you want to make sure that you can stay dedicated, hold yourself accountable, and reach your biggest goals and dreams so you can have the biggest and best life that you envision for yourself, you have to stay focused on that 20% of what matters most, allowing yourself to delegate that other 80%, which how many of us, that's hard to do, right? We don't want to let go. It's very hard. And that takes a mindset shift and a lot of personal development and growth. So,
Can I pause you there real quick?
oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, what I think about when you say it's a mindset shift to go to the 80-20 principle, I mean, focus on the things that are most important. I think the hardest thing for people is you want to make everything equal priority because everything's important and everything's urgent, right?
But when everything is urgent and important, then nothing is urgent
and nothing is. That's the hardest lesson to learn. And it's also very hard to tell somebody in the middle of trying to achieve their goals that, hey, your one goal is more important than the other one, or
right.
The activity that you need to do today for your family is more important than your business goal, or vice versa. You have to make those choices daily. So anyway, I just thought it was important to make mention that the mindset shift itself, the first mindset shift is that nothing can be equal. Nothing is equal. You have to have priorities, which will allow you, once you come to that awareness, you're okay with it, then you can move into starting to prioritize what's the top 20%. But until you say, hey, not all things are equal, not all my goals are equal, not all my priorities are equal, you can't get to an 80-20. So
no, that's so true. And how can someone really figure out what that is? Like, how can they really figure out what those priorities are? Because it can be hard sometimes to decipher What's the most important thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. One, you can start with your mission and values. I'll give an example of that here in a second. The other thing is Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, says, hey, you should focus, in order to be successful in reaching your goal, you should focus on the one thing you can do right now. The one thing that if you knock it over, knocks down all other dominoes. And then in that book, he teaches time management. So I think there's three things there. You have to be able to manage your time. And in order to manage your time effectively, you have to decide what are your top priorities are. What helps in that is determining what's the one thing I can do right now versus all the things that I can do right now. Right. So I think those three things are important in order to get to a place where you can start to actually develop an 80-20 list. Can you give an example? Do you know how he goes through that exercise and he says, hey, write down all the things that this is good. I'll go ahead and run with it.
Yeah, I love it.
He does an exercise. So write down all the things that you think you need to do. Pretty simple.
Yep.
Right. And then you write down all the things that you need to do. And then he says, okay, well, write down next to it, which ones do you absolutely have to do? And you'll cross them off. Like there's some that you don't actually have to do right now today. And then from there, the things that you actually have to do, which ones are your top priorities using your mission and values? So I said we would get back to this.
Yep.
So your missions and values, for instance, as Keller Williams as a company says that your mission and values is God, family, business. Right? Now, not everybody has to adopt that, but let's just use it as an example, right? So if I'm going to make my priorities in a day using those missions and values, that mission and those values is, I'm going to say, okay, well, is this something that God would want me to do? Is this a priority for that? Is this a priority for my family? And is this a priority for business? So when I write down all the things I need to do today, the first thing I'm going to do is Gary Keller's exercise. Which ones do I actually have to do? Then from there, I'm going to use my mission and values, which one of these activities is going to contribute to God, family, business. So that's one way to look at your prioritizing your goals and activities from a high level. But when you come to work throughout the day, you have 10 things that you have to get done. Right? So how do you prioritize your work day? How do you prioritize the list of 10 things that you need to do at work? Do you have any advice for that?
Well, you do how we go, or what we teach and what Gary Keller teaches is you do your 20% first thing. And we tell people the reason why you need to do those 20%. So in our world, right, that's lead gen. First thing in the morning is because it's so easy for distractions to pop up as the day goes on. And even Gary Keller said that. He's like, I realized that the rest of the world starts bothering me, needing things from me after about 10:30 a.m. So if he could get his 20% done by 11, he knew all right, that's done. We got it out of the way. We had a successful, 20% completion. Now I can focus on this task list that can be a little bit more flexible as things happen. We're in real estate, transactions get hiccups randomly throughout the day. So do the 20% in the morning and then pick those tasks on your task list, the most important ones, the 80%, and schedule them throughout the rest of your afternoon. So for us, that's, having time blocks open for appointments, right? Because we have to take buyer and seller consults. We need to do showings if we don't have a showing agent. But that also includes leaving white space open for the urgent, unplanned. That was something that I had struggled with. I wasn't leaving time for the miscellaneous things that we can't plan for. And then I was having to do a lot in the evening or, during family time because I didn't have time open in my calendar for those things that we just can't predict.
It's a great point. Yeah, so time blocking. And when you write down all the things that you need to do in a day, and then you start looking at the time you have to do them, you immediately have to figure out what your priorities are.
Right.
Now take that another step further, which is how do you time block each day? How do you time block the week? And when you get to that level of organization, now it's very easy for you to prioritize because you realize not everything's going to fit and some things have to go by the wayside. And then what I love about what you said, which is your top 20% of the things that you need to do, they need to get done first, or at least be protected enough that they don't change or get disrupted on your schedule.
Right. Because if those things, if you're 20%, if you wait until the afternoon, say,
Yep.
And I've been guilty of this, something comes up and I'm like, okay, I'll take this appointment in the morning and I'm going to move my lead gen time slot to 2:00. And I move it around and I'm like, I'm going to stick to it. Well, then at 1:30, something inevitably comes up. And now I didn't get to my lead gen time block. I worked, I was productive, I was busy. Yep. And yet now I'm not hitting my goals because I wasn't getting to my top 20%.
Right.
And it's so easy to do that. Like, because it's life. There's just so much going on in the world that we can't predict. I time block to a fault. I get made fun of, but I'm proud of it. Because I even time block my morning routine. So if you look at my calendar, it says like, this is my morning meditation time. And then this is workout time. And then this is, I call it, got to put on my face, which is shower, makeup. And then I have in there, like when I take the girls to their bus, and it just, the reason why I do that though, is it's so easy to fall behind.
Right.
Like it's so easy to run late because you got distracted during one of your time blocks.
Right.
And then once you do that, your whole day is late. And I hate rushing. So I have it down to a T in my calendar. Not that I 100% stick to it, but it's definitely helped. And I think too, sometimes it's helpful to start with those easy things because you have a win then. You're like, right. Yeah, I put my makeup on at 7 today. I stuck to my time block, but those little wins, they give you the motivation. I think that's what I wanted to say today is oftentimes we're waiting for this motivation to just happen. We're like, well, I'm going to get motivated next Monday and I'm going to start lead genning next Monday because I'm going to wake up Monday morning and I'm magically going to be like, yeah, I'm going to lead gen today. Most of the time, that's not how it works. Most of the time it takes you to have to get a win to actually build that motivation. So you're probably going to have to not like doing it for a little bit until you realize it's working. And then you build on top of that.
That's a great point. Great point. So time management by time blocking.
Yeah.
You time block by doing your 80-20 principles. You should be time blocking for the top 20% of the things that you need to accomplish to reach your goals. So let's make this real simple. You set your goals, whatever those goals are, the activities that contribute to those goals have to be your most important things.
Yep.
Those automatically end up in your top 20% of the things that you need to accomplish. The other way of approaching that, and alongside of this, goal planning and figuring out what your top 20% is on a daily basis, you can write down the things that you need to accomplish that day and ask yourself, do I have to do this? Does it contribute to my goal? My big goal, the one that I planned on and wrote down and I have to get to this year, the one that's so important to me. Those things end up in your top 20% and have to be time blocked. And then once you have those time blocked, the other 80% of the things still need to get done. That's where I was leading this to. Like we understand that you can't just focus on 20% of the things. What we want everybody to realize is that the 80% fills in around all of the stuff that you time blocked for. It's the phone calls you make in between your time blocks. It's the catch up that you do towards the end of the day. It's the afternoon that you have, like Brittany said, you have some white space scheduled where you can respond to clients and react to things. So the 80% still there. The 80% still there, but we're trying to teach everyone that you have to focus on the 20% because that's what has to get done.
I love it.
Yep. So thinking big, again, I think we dove down into the weeds there. Let's go back up to thinking big.
Okay.
Which is, why big models, why big thinking? And you started off with, why is it important to have the right mindset this year? Right?
Yep.
And then, the first part of that mindset was the 80-20 principle. How do we get the mindset that we have to prioritize? How do we get the mindset that we're going to focus on the top 20%? What was next?
The next thing that Gary Keller talks about is your environment when you're doing your top 20%. So we learn in Bold, right, to have like a bunker, a lead gen bunker, where there's no distractions, you can't be interrupted, to help you stay in that 20%, because that's what gets us out of focus, right, is distractions.
Yeah.
So he talks about environment. I personally, I agree to a point. So I do believe that you have to have a good environment so that way you're not being distracted. And yet I also believe that you have to have some type of flexibility. And I think 2020 was an awakening for a lot of people, right? Like all of a sudden we were quarantined and we had to work from home with our kids homeschooling,
Yep.
with our spouses also on Zoom meetings. So I feel like if you get too focused on, I have to have the perfect workspace, you could almost hurt yourself by either focusing too much on what the workspace looks like, feels like. And then when you go to work, you're like, oh, this isn't quite right. I got to keep working on my space.
Right.
So I kind of like, I agree with Gary to a point. And yet I also feel like you just got to be able to say, look, this is my lead gen time block. I don't care if my kids are in the background watching Sesame Street or
Yep.
I have a team meeting happening across the hallway from me. Like, I just got to do it.
Yeah. So I totally agree with what you're saying. What I think's most important about what he's describing in the book about environment is the environment can throw off your mindset.
Yeah.
So I appreciate what you're saying, which is, hey, so long as your environment is one that's going to make you productive, you don't have to have the same environment every day. Maybe so for somebody like me who likes to be a little more flexible, like I like changing where I sit and I don't need the exact same environment. I need a little bit more flexibility in order to keep myself motivated. I agree with you 100% on that. The most important thing I think that he's putting in the book is that guard your environment, because it's very easy for your environment to change that positive mindset.
Which is true. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, well, if you're at home and you're making calls and kids are, screaming and crying in the background, that's a different environment than if they're coming in and giving you a hug and giving you purpose. I don't know how much control you have over that scenario, right?
Right. You might not. And yet that's where, maybe you have a spouse at home that you can enlist some help and say, look, between 9 and 11, if you can like corral the kids as best you can, that'd be sweet.
Yeah.
But one thing as an agent, when I was in production, I did my best at trying not to, and I'm not going to say that I didn't fail because I failed a couple times, be to not check your email. Because
good point.
All it took for me was one email from a lender saying that they found something on my buyer's credit report that wasn't there last week. And next thing you know, I go into this like oh, I got to fix that mode. And it's like, screw you, lead gen. Like, I need to fix this problem right now, because if I try to make calls,
Mhm.
all I'm thinking about is that problem. And people can tell when you're on the phone. They can tell
Yeah.
your emotion, even if you're trying to fake it.
Yep.
They can tell you if you're distracted. So that was my biggest one. Like, don't check email. Maybe don't even check text messages if you can,
Yep.
because a little bit of bad news, even if it's not terrible, it can really throw your focus off.
Yep. So best year yet, get the best mindset you've had yet, start prioritizing, right?
Yep.
And then protect your mindset by protecting your environment. Nobody's disciplined enough to go into an environment that, is, let's just say, counterintuitive to what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And nobody's disciplined enough to go into that environment and then still reach their goals. So protect your environment. We could even go as far as who you spend your time with, who you hang around with. That doesn't just contribute to your mindset, it contributes to your daily ability to reach your productivity goals. So what's next?
Energy. And I think that plays a lot into
Right
it.
on our side. Yep.
Yeah. Um, all this focus, all this discipline, this keeping your mindset in the right lane, it takes energy. Everything takes energy. So Gary, we talk about the miracle morning, I think before. It's something that
Yep.
our leadership group does together. But he has his own version of the miracle morning. Anthony, do you want to go over that, or do you want me to?
I don't know Gary's version. That's interesting.
Yeah,
So if
so
you could share that, that'd be awesome.
he does his meditation and praying first, which is pretty similar to miracle morning. Exercise and eat, and that's to get his physical energy. So similar to miracle morning. I like this though. He has a time for hug, kiss, and laugh, which is to pump up his emotional energy.
That's cool.
So, maybe a little family time there in the morning.
Yep.
And then he has a little time block to plan his calendar every day, every morning. And that gives him his mental energy. And then his next time block is, which we all probably know, is lead gen.
Yeah.
And he gets all of that done by 11 a.m.
Yeah, that's good. I love it.
Yeah.
Do you want to share the miracle morning too? Because I think there's even more depth there that could be helpful as well.
Yeah. So the miracle morning is designed to, you're going to get up earlier because you're going to get a couple things done in the day. First thing, again, because if you try to do it later, you're probably not going to do it. And really, by accomplishing those things, you gain motivation because you're like, man, I've already done these 5 things today. I'm going to kill it today. So it just gets you into your calendar like extra pumped. At least that's how it is for me. So it's
Well,
like,
speaking on your best year yet, if you want your best year yet, if you're to do these morning exercises or rituals, if you will, we'll explain them here in a second. It gives you the most amount of clarity, energy, willpower, and positive mindset to go into your day, because it's really what you're going to need in order to fight off, any of the circumstances that come throughout your day. Right.
Right. When a bad thing happens, you're not like, my whole life is ruined. You're like, okay, I got
it. Yeah, you're a little more stable than that.
Yeah.
So the miracle morning is called Savers. It's SAVERS, and that's I'll try to do this justice.
It's 6 things.
Silence. Oh, you can correct me when I get it wrong. Silence, which can be, that's the first S, that can be meditation. It doesn't have to be done in any order. But silence, which can be meditation or prayer. A is affirmations. So if you want to change a habit, change your mindset, any of your goals, affirmations is just consistently or continuously repeating to yourself certain things in order for your mind to start to believe that you've already accomplished these things, which makes them easier to accomplish.
Yep.
So that's affirmations. It could just be something as simple as I will have a positive attitude all day today. I will have a positive, and you just repeat it to yourself for however long. And then affirmations, V is for visualization. So that's to visualize your goals. You should have a goal board. A lot of people have a vision board, right? So that's taking a visual depiction of your goals and focusing on them. Visualization. Then you have E for exercise, R for reading, and then S for scribing, which is writing in a journal or just simply writing down what you're grateful for and what you learned the previous day. So by the time you get done doing all of that, and you're meant to do each of the 6 things for 10 minutes. So you spend an hour. And Hal Elrod is the author of The Miracle Morning. And he says, if you can't do it for an hour, at least do it for 1 minute a piece. And that's only 6 minutes. And I can tell you personally that those 6 minutes make a big difference in your day if you just do that. But it's pretty cool. You can do it for any length of time. Maybe you want to work out for 20 minutes and you do affirmations for 2 instead of 10.
Yeah.
Something like that. But it's really cool. Going into your day, you have the most amount of energy and positive mindset you can have if you do all 6 of those things.
I agree. And I think just taking care of yourself, like that's such a healthy thing to do. And when you feel good, you feel more confident. When you feel more confident, you go into your top 20% and those 80% tasks with a lot more focus,
Bingo.
clarity, and overall, you're just better.
Yeah. Well, look at how it would play into each one of the things that we've asked everybody to do so far, right? So your goals, focusing on your most important goals. Well, you accomplish that in visualization in your miracle morning.
Yeah.
With exercise and, reading, you're working towards those goals. And then with writing, you're reviewing your progress. You wrote down what you learned yesterday, what you've accomplished and what you're grateful for. So writing that down is tracking your progress. So it's really cool. I think it's something everybody should do. So far, what do we have left? We have time block, mindset. What else do we need to tell them to have the greatest year of their life?
They just need to do
Morning
it.
routine is important.
Yeah, morning routine is important, and they just need to start doing it.
Right.
Even if, like you said, we all fail, right? Like you're not going to do this flawlessly, and you just have to be forgiving of yourself.
Yep.
And take one step at a time. So maybe it's starting to implement the miracle morning. Get that down for a couple weeks, and then it's, I'm really going to bunker down during doing my lead gen. And then it's, okay, I'm really going to be good at sticking to my appointment time slots and, treating my family time like a listing appointment.
That's right.
And just the more that you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yep.
That's probably my best advice as far as that goes. And then, just remember all of this, like the focusing on your mindset and having a positive mindset starts with taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
So you can't pour from an empty cup. So when you take care of you, it allows you then to be the best version of yourself so you can give back to others, whether that's your family, your clients, your team, whatever that may be, is you do have to put yourself first. And one thing that I don't have on this list, Anthony, but because you coach EOS, one thing that I loved and would love to talk about a minute here before we hop off is clarity breaks.
Okay.
Do you mind giving a little bit of information on those and how often folks should do those?
Well, like I said, if you're doing that miracle morning, you're kind of
Like
doing
a
them
mini
every day.
clarity break. Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing that a little bit in your visualization, affirmations, and even again, if you're writing down what you learned and what you're grateful for, that helps as well. What are your thoughts?
The one thing that I used to do, I should probably get back into it. For some reason, as I'm not in active production, I get rid of habits that I'm like, maybe I should still keep those. But I also would reflect back on my calendar. And it was, did I really do the things I said I was going to do last week?
Yep.
And then I would just be real with myself. Like, I could have done better. Okay, so what can I do better this week?
Right.
And then it was also just looking at my why. What are my goals? Are my activities on my calendar that I'm actually doing, not the ones that I planned, but the ones I'm actually doing, lining up with what my big why is and what my goals are? And it's better to do that. Like I would try to do that once a month.
Mhm.
So I could catch myself if I started to make a bad habit.
Right.
And then I'd be like, okay, let's realign here. And there again, it's just being forgiving and knowing that we're not perfect, we're human. And then what can I do better next time? And sometimes it was just enlisting in help.
Right.
Maybe it's, I need to have a conversation with my spouse and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this around the house. Like, do you think you can help me with that? Partner with me. I don't like to use the word help, partner with me and do that. Or maybe it's finding leverage. Or
Yeah,
maybe
so
being disciplined.
as part of a process, so everybody can understand where we're coming from, a clarity break is much like a debrief, where ask yourself, what did you do well? What did not go so well? What did we learn? And what will we do differently next time? So if you ask yourself those 4 questions on any one of your goals or your progress to that goal, then you're going to get clarity on what you need to do next. So great point, Brittany. And your first question was how often? I mean, you have to do it at least monthly. I know for me personally, like my mind's just always doing it, and always I'm at least doing it weekly, intentionally, and then
Right.
daily I'm going through that and running that exercise through my mind on anything that we're doing. But I think everybody's a reasonable expectation for folks trying to reach their goals would be do it weekly. At a minimum, you have to do it monthly.
And if I remember from Traction, a lot of successful business owners or business leaders do that. So a lot of times people think, oh man, taking like an hour or 2 hours to do this clarity break, that seems like such a waste of time. And yet a lot of leaders would say after they did that, so many of like their best ideas would come after that, because that's what it's called. It's a clarity break. It's like a brain dump, and their best ideas come to them. It's for me, when I would go for walks as part of my miracle morning, some of the most clarity I would get would be during that time. My best ideas, whether it's for trainings or problem solving, would happen then because I wasn't focused on anything else.
Great description.
Yeah. So it looks like we have quite a few people who hopped on. So I just want to say thank you. Julie Hess, Tammy Dykes, Kathy Palmero, Damaris, Dave Unger,
Wow.
Willis Herring, Amy Hart, Mike Dreamer, Barry Perry, Pedro. Thank you all so much for hopping on.
No idea.
And if any last comments for us before we hop off here? If anybody wants to add. Tammy Dyke says, thank you so much. You are so welcome, Tammy. Thanks for hopping on.
Tammy.
I guess my final words were going to be, because Gary Keller ends MREA, at least after the energy portion, he says, our admonition to you is to believe in and seek the possibilities your life holds. Think big, act bold, live large, and become the very best you can become. I love it.
If you need any help with that, you know where to reach us.
Exactly.
Yep. Brittany, thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate all the good questions.
Thank you for everything. And we'll see everybody next time.
Yep. See you next Wednesday.